You made it. Well, no, she texted me, said she was coming from Carmel. I was gonna look to let everybody know she was late.
Yes. Sorry. Did everything, to be done in the whole meeting now, or? Yeah, I mean, there's no stability, so it's read, it's all typically, other content, you know, it's got different directions. We don't need to go through that.
What about the one today? You mean, well, let's get next with them. Yeah. It's easier for you. Yeah, it's set up with them. It's like this one. I'm used to going to bed at 10. Well, the buckets are one of the- that's. We're actually a little set of.
Second. You know, not coming. No. I do not know.
It is low, medium, low. They sort of use- Which we have in these- 300 people. So-
Oh, yeah.
All of the policies, all of the special commissions, and the kind of commissions. You know, the kind of. Oh.
Yeah, what? When you're told that one thing. Yeah. Something on like to get. Something on the. Something on the. President. Director Lawler.
Yeah.
Vice Chair. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Hayat.
Small fast.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Changes.
Well, I know you can workshop and do something, you see like that, just giving myself an activity, it's not like, it's just like, it's not like, it's not like, what is it? Is it like, I mean,
Okay, thank you. Uh, Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, and Chair, Chairperson, many commissioners. Never done one of these before, a joint meeting like this, so hopefully we can do this quickly and protect all of your time as best as possible. Uh, yeah, there's public material posted in the rear of the chambers for the public to use. As many of you are well aware, this particular project has been before decision makers in the city for four public hearings. So there's some presumption that we're relatively familiar with some of the project. During those hearings, the planning commission voted twice on a 4-0 and a 5-0 vote to recommend to the city council that the proposed project be denied at the city council. The city council voted to deny the project once, and then on the fourth return to the city council, the city council recommended that we have this workshop in order to try and craft a project that might be approvable by the city council. Now, there won't be any decisions made this evening, and so when the discussion returns to the city council, staff would like to ask for as many clues as you can give us. Yeah, most of the community development department is here, so we can work with the applicant who is here by presence of Mr. Elliott. So we again might get a project that might be approvable. There's a lot of this issue. Used to focus the city council members on the material issues. The material issue that really will make a difference because it's from that issue that all of the other issues stem from. And the material issue is the ratio on residential units per commercial square footage on this particular parcel. That is highly commercial. Use only on the development. There's some discussion regarding these things. And staff wants to make one thing perfectly clear to everybody because a lot of time has been actually wasted on this issue. Staff has the city council approve this project at the density proposed by the applicant. You don't have that authority. You have a discretion to approve it. In this case, it's staff some recommendation that your discretion is supplied. We do not allow deviation from the development standards that are included in the general plan and the zoning code as is. And so, these are general plan. Regardless of how you may want to approve this project, so the act is required in the city council to do so. So that only puts this in, it's not typical. So, like, it's the 8x11 that's been distributed to all. On the first page, the yellow circle circles on 4th Street. It's long and it's narrow, and you'll notice it abuts the southern boundary of the specific plan. Okay, and here is a zoning map because from staff's perspective, the issue from here, Zoning. Zoning commercial. Decision makers, city council, this council and moving backwards. We anticipated in this also, hosts commercial development. The second slide is a summary of what we've already been through. The areas in which the proposal of 32 residential units with 3,200 square feet, and 24 residential units with 8,800 square feet. And the last time we did 20 residential units with 1,000 square feet of commercial. Now, again, my full-time material issues, there's been a laundromat in and out, there's been alcohol sales in and out, there's been other things in and out, but all of those other issues stems from the one issue, and that issue is how many residential units city council allow on this parcel. You know, that being said, those ratios break down in an interesting format. The code says that the ratio should be one residential unit per 3,000 square feet of commercial space. These proposals, I mean, unit per 100 square feet, unit per 370 square feet, and unit at 600 square feet. So, areas. It's no big deal, but it is significant. There are specific findings that must be thoroughly vetted. The findings that need to be made in order to execute a development agreement with this type of parcel. And the three questions are found to the right of page 2 of your handout there. As of the last thing is to truly recognize where this parcel is located, and that's slide 3. The fraction of where the left hand talking about if you selling a specific I left with you on your table shed. Processing in the city. Site. Significant activity in the last month. Continuing on an ongoing basis. The reason I don't agree is that this parcel is, in our judgment, a parcel. And then right in our is a most significant commercial area in the city. Emphasize and city council is yes. Should they approve the consistently we've seen so far? It was it would be a viable commercial parcel for the property road. Businesses that are specific in area. He's also from the property owner that let's not this better than a burning bush. But what I'm going to say is it hasn't been developed forever. There's no prospect for development. It's a list of all the possible So, person in the summarize almost nothing that would be disallowed on that parcel. The fact that we never entertained a parcel in such judgment is in no way mean it's not developed as a commercial parcel. In fact, with the development I'm going to be working on this parcel, I mean, the interchange and also money state highway 101, 35,000 vehicle trips pass by daily. It's just kind of goofy to suggest that nothing it can be located there, and therefore we should just accept an apartment building at this location. You know, that might not happen tomorrow. It might not happen next year. But it's staff's judgment that that parcel, just as it was analyzed back in the general plan was created in 2005, remains a viable commercial parcel, and it will be developed at some point in the not too distant future. Should the city council suggest to staff that we don't care, we're going to take an apartment building instead of, some future possible commercial development that would result in perpetuity, the possibility of the city receiving any tax expenses, either sales tax, cannabis taxes, gas taxes, business license fees, or even TOT taxes. It just takes that whole area of inquiry off the table, and it is replaced by another multi-family complex of unknown size. But we've already seen in January 2019, the applicant had proposed 42 units, and I think 1,200 square feet, very no commercial, really. And then it went from 32 to 24. I'm sorry, 42, 32, 24, and the applicant is not saying that we reduced it by 22 units. But the reality is that they started at a place where the current law, that the community development staff is charged with implementing would only permit between 6 and 8 residential units on the parcel. So the fifth slide documents the three findings that would be necessary if the city council decides, it's okay, we'll take the extra housing and the option moves forward. I would suggest, and the city attorney can certainly chime in as you wish. It's not sufficient to just say, well, we want housing. That's not enough. We need to talk about this phenomenon. Well, if the answers to these questions, for example, staff had a difficulty supporting the project in the hearings 3 previous times. For example, the first finding in the development must be consistent with the general plan objectives, policies, uses, and implementation programs, and specific plans. Well, I'm wondering this project was solution. Change. Shot at it. Realize that the development Documents that attach those documents. Here's one of the things you have good 3,000 square feet. Regarding the circulation flow and it was not an apartment complex. Or anything is in an apartment complex. It was it was without a commercial parcel. Square feet. It's too expensive. You're allowed to increase the residential units if the city council chooses, and that's true. Except you can make findings, required findings, and that's hard to do. Staff's recommendation that we stick to the unit for 3,000 square feet for a whole variety of reasons. First of all, it's staff's professional opinion that this parcel is an excellent and viable commercial parcel. Second of all, should the city council accept the development agreement to accept standards beyond which are codified in the zoning code, what are we going to do the next time a mixed use overlay property comes before the council and they want the same thing? Because it's important that we try at least to treat all of our applicants equitably, and that's why these matters are codified in the rules. Everybody plays by the same rules, and we will be hard pressed to say on a parcel just down the road or in downtown that is zoned similarly in the mixed use overlay that, well, all you have to do is join the development agreement and we can do anything we want. And in essence, that's what the development agreement allows. If the city council should, I know that the city attorney would be willing to discuss that issue further, because generally speaking, a development agreement is a tool, a method used in more sophisticated developments that allows the city to get something from the developer in return for a benefit or a privilege. For example, it could be more density in return for improvements that otherwise wouldn't be required. It's a contract that we give and an applicant gives, and that's codified in the development agreement. And I asked the question, the question, what is the city doing to approve this beyond the development regulated standards that exist? And the answer, as best we could say, is additional multifamily units, which I don't have to remind the council that we've exceeded our arena numbers in cycle 5 and are on track to do the same thing. So that essentially concludes my remarks. I hope you don't have any questions, and when it's returned to the council, I hope you'll give us as many clues as you can as to you're looking at this issue. The way staff is looking at this issue, because this matter has nothing to do with our neighbors. Another issue with that, the main issue is, are you willing to really 5 commercial parcel into multi-family residential because that would be the effect of the development agreement. Since we've seen so far, and right now the maximum saying that we've seen with their various years would be 8 years and pushed other issues that have come up in the various public hearings. But I would like to say to the council that the staff is capable of addressing those issues in a way that is going to be a credit to the city. For example, for people on the street, some mess is going to take, no matter what happens there, it's going to take significant improvements. Circulation. All of those issues are to address in a professional manner during the secret document that attaches with this project when it returns to the city council. Secret document address traffic, abuse, drainage, engineering, all of their standard issues. It would allow this project to move forward rather than it's 30 months over to process it either way. It's really it's the city council to implement this time. And that's all I have.
We want to move to the. I wasn't sure what you would have for documents to review, so I brought some plans if you want to look at very carefully what's there, but I think we've seen that plenty of times. So I'm Dave Elliott. I'm the architect, the applicant for this project. We've been going on for a couple of years, seen you all several times, and we are very appreciative of the fact. So I have 3 minutes. My goodness. Speak louder. So we've been through this several times. The first time we looked at this, there was 32 units before the planning commission, and that 32 units really didn't have a lot of commercial. The commercial at that time was related to the units. It had a convenience store and a laundromat, both of which no one was very excited about. And so we took that and we were already scheduled for the city council. And when we came to the city council, I asked for them to let us go back to the planning commission. And we came back with a 24 unit project with 8,000 square feet of commercial. And so that wasn't approved as well. So the next step was to go to the city council. The city council and denied the project for the 24 units. However, they said, you're welcome to come back and present something new. And as I said, I had already developed something with 20 units. So that's what's before the city council coming up at a future meeting here. So and we have this has been a long time going. And it's from the city council meeting that we had last. What we have done and accomplished is I thought that the issue primarily was the traffic issue. There was one individual that came up from the public, the first time anybody came up from the public. And then the other conversations were about the off ramps and on ramps of the adjoining off ramps that come off of 101 that are between this project. So we spent and we were told to work with Brent Slama. Brent was your assigned planner that was hired for that. We worked with him. We worked with a traffic engineer, and also we worked with your public works director. And so with those, we were coming up with a presentation, a formal presentation, to be to look at how we could alleviate some of the problems with the traffic there. And we have come up with something, but this was a little short notice. I wasn't really prepared to do that yet. So I really found out about this meeting Monday from a phone call from Paul. And then apparently it was put on the agenda for, yesterday. And so here we are at the meeting. And so I'd like to, I wish I had more time to give you the other concerns that we had about the traffic. Regarding the doing a project like this, we think that I've done all the shopping centers, all along 101 with Shaw Development. So there's not a place for you to have another major shopping center. That's Shaw Development, who will come and speak at the public hearing, wouldn't be interested in that. But what you do have, having talked with Chris Lopez, who really encouraged me with the project, who said, what you really need is market rate units. And because we're down to 20 units, that's all we can do financially. So the 20 units, we're going to be market rate. So your low income people that you're saturated with will have a move up place for a market rate. Also, we have concerns for teacher housing. So Dr. Deneen Gus is very excited. She'll come to the hearing as well, that she has a problem retaining teachers. So we're going to do 4 of the units for teachers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Do we have any other public comments? Are there any online?
Or any questions?
Or we will take it to City Council and Planning Commission comments and discussion now. So I'll open it up if anybody wants to begin. We are able to ask questions if we have to.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a comment. One thought is talking about those units. How's the traffic going to be on 4th Street coming off the freeway?
Well, right now, there's nothing there, and I have a very specific answer to that from my traffic engineer. However, I only had a 2 days notice of the meeting. So we were working on that. He's about a week out from giving a very formal presentation. He studied all of the intersections all along 101 and has a very nice and quality, simple solution for that he's worked out with your public works director.
I have a question for you, sir. Are you willing to consider going down to 8 units or to be in compliance?
I don't see how that's really possible. When we were recommending 32 units, yeah, that's asking a lot. And there really wasn't commercial. And I understand how that was turned down because that really wasn't, the commercial was only related to the units. So, but that was related to financing with the particular client. I am working, when we come up at the formal meeting, we'll have a new developer that's going to develop this. And they're working out all the finances to see what they can do. But 20 units is really not a lot of units to authorize a project.
Okay, following up on that, the owner purchased a lot designated highway commercial. Nobody forced that. That's the fact. He bought that lot in that zone for that purpose. So, and then we have a whole list of commercial opportunities. And, those of us that live here know that our residents want more retail. They want several things on this list that's available for that site. I understand that it's a long, narrow site that is difficult to develop, but you do have, if I'm not mistaken, you can divide that up into, you can make sub-parcels, 4 sub-parcels, and have 4 different commercial opportunities in there. Has that been consideration at all?
That was never a consideration when I got hired for this. And admittedly, yes, he bought that like 10 years ago. And so he's held that. I came into the picture a few years back and where we were looking at how we can financially do a project that was feasible. And so the residential was the key. And we got educated along the way that you're really maxed out with low income housing. So we're not doing low income housing. We're doing a step up. These are beautiful townhouses. This is where you'd want to live. And I think where people are going to appreciate that they have a move up location from their low income housing.
With all due respect, I don't like open singing. I don't think I would choose that personally.
I have a question for Mr. Mugen, because Commissioner Garcia, what she mentioned about, and you did also, that it would sort of be settling, you know, there's all these opportunities and you presented the page with all of these different potential things. So, have any of these, have we been approached to build a trade school in that area?
No,
A live entertainment facility,
no, that,
a recording studio? A mortuary, a theater, golf? I mean, this is a wonderful, like, Google list of,
the property owner has never proposed. There's only one person that proposed that,
right,
and this is a rental. This is a rental investment property, is what it is. And so that question should be for the applicant. Yeah, they, no, but it's in the report, staff has not entertained any proposals of a commercial nature on this parcel.
yeah,
Just like about,
I can speak to that.
the, okay, but so the question, I'm posing the question to you because you mentioned that that's, you know, in the last 10 years, so we now have an owner for that parcel, but before that, have there been proposals for any of these things, like even one of them to be built there?
That's French farmer worked on a proposed hotel back in the 10 years. I first met with them in 2019 when the project was ready to put up. Mr. Sharma is made me, but were in the Mississippi, which at that time, he was trying to build up a hotel or a motel. That's
And there was just other reasons that didn't go through, I'm assuming. Because there still isn't, in the 40 years I've been in Greenfield, there hasn't been anything on that side. So I think where I was coming from and even requesting this meeting and wanting to get clear direction, like, is this something that we're ever going to consider approving or not? Is because the developer's trying to work with the city, right? We've gone back and forth. They have been responsive to what the requests have been.
that's the question, because it actually, they haven't been responsive.
So they didn't change the restroom quantity or laundromat issues?
I mean,
They didn't change the restroom quantity in the units or
We did.
including laundry within the units?
yes, exactly. But the way the discourse has gone through these hearings is the planning commission, if you review the minutes are clear about the planning commission concerns. Their concerns are, this is a commercial, the commercial parcel, they should be developed as a commercial parcel that's replete with minutes. And we discussed that matter subsequently, the applicant, he says, well, I know that, but we're not going to do that. The primary concern with this property owner and the development team is, and this is in their own correspondence, does it pencil out? Are we gonna make enough money? And it's not the only rental property this property owner has, and that's fine. But the discussion that the city council has in staff professional judgment is that it should be applied for preserving those parcels that are assets to the city that one day will be much more valuable as a commercial property than they have for now. And I can give you an example of a specific plan. where we have put, housing that was not anticipated in the specific planned area. And if you look north of Walnut in the specific plan, which is 65 acres, there's no commercial development there, not some of the plan today. There's about $10 million in development activity ongoing as we speak, which is probably a good opportunity to say that the Walnut Visitor Center probably is going to be open next month for business. That would include Jamba Juice, Pizza Hut, Chester's Chicken, and Noon. So this is concern, and if the city council wants to do this and put 20 units on there, that's your call here, and I have no qualms about helping the applicant and everybody else to get that on the ground. Our department is put over 600,000 units in the city. It's on our professional judgment in the planning commission has concurred with that judgment that we probably should stick with the design guidelines that have been already outlined in the general plan, in the zoning code, in the environmental document that goes with it.
So I would really like to invite the planning commissioners to comment, just, you guys have been a lot more intricately involved in the reviews of this. I just joined this conversation last year, so I would really like to.
Because some of them, yeah, it's commercial, they have it on, so. Yeah, sometimes it's sound. And I was really excited. Years from now, the topic of being worked out now, it's a commercial. Now, I'm to Ryan else is thousand, and one else has never approached. Maybe it's a husband, it's a nothing like that's from Australia. And the very was because there's a big room station and the second thing. So one of the issues that always comes up with the phone call show, and that's when Mr. Person out there, I'm thinking, the problem just this is a feeling like structure to all the lots of things. But I have to be a little bit background, but I've looked into it. But when I said publishing and having literature, it probably be some precedent that we go forward with this. Because, well, someone might be running in and they're not going in and say, well, this is I know it's zoned commercial, but I want to put it to the publisher. That's not the way I want to tell that.
Sure, I see his statement, maybe the developer purchasing the property, knowing that it's commercial, right? Does this developer know the city, the needs of the city, or is he just a developer from outside that doesn't know what's really going on in town and what is needed in town? One, two, I think it's pretty black and white, if it's, zoned, commercial, let's keep this kind of commercial, to see and trying to, make it to where, it's just not a mission, it's just now, it's just, whatever we doing something where, now it's gonna set something where the next guy's gonna come in and do the same thing. So I guess the answer to the first question would be this, the city, what's going on is, what is he?
I assume it's okay to answer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Those are good points. And yes, he bought that, knowing it's commercial development, and it sat there for all 10 years. And so how do we develop an extremely narrow site with an immeasurable amount of work and money that's going to take to redevelop Fourth Street. That's a huge multi-million dollar project alone, besides the project. So I think Paul had a good point. What does the city get out of this? What do you get out? You get Fourth Street. You're going to get 12,000 square feet of commercial. This is what my conversation with Chris Lopez was, and he admits, he doesn't have any say on what you're talking. He loved the project, and you're welcome to ask him about it. He said, and what the city needs in your commercial is a small restaurants. He thought, give the city back some restaurants. Well, we can do that. So I've hired Shaw Development, who's the biggest shopping center developer all on 101. I've done all of their projects over the last 40 years. So I was 12 years old when I started. So there was, and so they understand. But the big commercial units, you are buying things online now. It's a different world today than it was back when we built those shopping centers. He will never build that shopping center again. But Shaw's passed away, but his company is still going, and they're going to get us some good tenants. We have our next hearing. That's another thing I was working on. We're working on, who do you get? What kind of tenants can you get? Can we get small restaurants? Can we get all the things that you were suggesting that are on the list? And the answer is yes. Give us a chance to show you who they are.
I'll just, I am going to check with Mr. Lopez to see if he does love this, because dropping names and hearsay is one thing, but I guess, on these mandatory findings that you present, Mr. Median, do all three need to be met?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and that's another issue, council, is clearly the first one was not met, it is inconsistent. And the second one, the traffic congestion is a problem now without adding the number of residents. And I was trying to do a little math with the post 20 units, 3-bedroom units. So that's how many residents, 6 to 8 residents per unit. That's 120 people living on 1.42 acres. That's the density that I referred to. And then the speculation on number 3 about the one is, do we actually need more apartments? And frankly, since I've been on the planning commission, we've approved pretty much nothing but apartments. So, I mean, I drive by 222 that are being built right now around the corner from me. We have 9 to 11 buildings with the Avila project that are half are empty. And that has potential of turning over to market rate. The farm worker component doesn't pan out. So we still have that, in our back pocket for apartments. So, and again, I would hope that, looking into commercial development of what highway commercial property would be something that could, happen, because again, on that list, those are definitely laws that we live here. I can't tell you how many times people say, we need a gym. We do need a gym. And I wanted to clarify on medical services, would that include a veterinary office?
Yes.
You need a veterinary office, and the place in Solidar just closed down. So there's specific needs that not only our community, but our neighboring communities could benefit from if that was developed commercially. So,
Can I respond?
sure.
Sure. So, yeah, thank you for that. Just about the conditions with that Paul wrote, set out. That's if you're going to change the zoning and all those things. And that's how we kind of started out with this project. The development agreement is a model that you can use, and it's not alleviating things. It's just making that process simpler. And so that development agreement is a place that would make this pretty easy to work with, whatever you do. And then on the commercial thing, we're glad to hear who you want to have in there. So if we want to do a veterinary office or anything like that, we're glad to consider putting those kinds of things in there. And we were told that small restaurants was what you really wanted, but that wasn't you that said that. That was Chris. So He's not you. So, you know, we're flexible to do that. We got 12,000 square feet that you're gonna get. That's a small strip center. And you're gonna get that. And as far as the traffic's concerned, we have a solution for the extra traffic that's gonna be there regarding the freeway off ramps. Once we have that in place, we'll be able to present that very clearly.
Right, the other concern I have with the development agreement is you can, put these components in there, but it actually come to fruition. There would need to be hard deadlines, because the Avila has 3 acres of commercial in fronting that, and it's still not developed. So, you could say, yeah, we'll build a vet, and then 20 years later, it's not there. So,
We have a new developer that will take Mr. Collette's place. So I can't divulge that yet, no, but it all matters what you're deciding on with this project that can take this project. So it's not a project that we're gonna hang back on. We're gonna develop the whole project as is, the whole 20 units with all the 10,000 square feet. We're gonna develop that immediately. We already have building permits in place that they're on hold.
okay, well, just to clarify, I'm not a decision maker. It's already been through my board. So we're just recommending, and my recommendation is not changed.
Other thing I wanted to expand to it.
Yes. Well, it goes to, let's see, what is that? It goes from Palm to the next street. It's everything that's in front of our property is going to get completely developed, two-way traffic, parking, curbs and gutters, all that stuff.
Well, what I'm saying is there's other picture board right now. It's first going to go from Palm to Walnut.
I
don't think so.
I don't think that's the plan. Because if they go on Walnut, it would preclude what they come in.
So is this expanded traffic
We would be doing apple to Palm. Apple to Palm, correct.
So Oak Street.
Understand? And from talking with your civil engineer, it sounds like you're gonna have some development fees, so some substantial development fees coming from us for the project. Also, apparently you have some work that you're gonna develop to get some funding for some of your traffic problems. The traffic engineer can give you very specific directions on how to handle exactly that at those two intersections coming off of 101. This was pretty quick for me on at this point.
Okay, so I'm gonna repeat what I said the last 2 times that you came for us. My concern is traffic and the overcrowding of cars. Allocation, I don't know if that's the best location for especially given the 2 off ramps on what is it, Oak, and then the other one on the bottom of it. So also, you mentioned that this would be market rate, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so affordable housing right now, rents are probably a little high than what, our residents are used to. And so I know that you mentioned there would be a property manager living on site. And, they would shoot, or the manager would control the house and stuff. So the market rate would, in my opinion, allow multiple families to live in one unit just to be able to afford that market rate. I know there's going to be a property manager, but it's hard to manage that, especially with the parking. I don't know how many vehicles will be per unit or per permit. I'm guessing 2 to 3. So that's but 2 to 3. that's 60, additional vehicles on that side of the street, so. And then I would, disagree with you in regards to, I don't like to shop, I like to do online shopping. There's several businesses that will be coming into Greenfield soon, I hope, and so, that's what we need, local green businesses, we need jobs for our youth, commercial, so that's.
And the market is different, and I appreciate, I would go and shop with people that are mom and pop operations and support the people that are local. That's who I think are going to be the tenants in the 12,000 square feet. However, Sears in Salinas is gone. Menards is gone. The big shopping people, they're devastated by the online shopping. So it's a real thing. So yes, you want to shop local, but a lot of people are pretty much shopping online. And I have a concern, let's see, about managing the property. Completely understand that there's several families living in a unit in a lot of places and saturating the parking requirements. We'll meet the parking requirements for one family per house, per unit. And so we're going to have an on-site person, and each person is going to sign a contract. If you like, I'll bring the contract at the next hearing. And if you are not if you are not managing your property within that, you are evicted. So we're going to enforce that because it's that the multiple families in a unit tears it down, we'll lose it and have to rebuild the thing every time rents change. So we understand that one family per unit.
Sorry, so how many parking spaces? I don't think
all the requirements on the site for the whole development.
Do you know how many parking spaces?
I think it's 2.25, right? You got 2 per unit plus you got guest parking for the units. So we meet that. Plus we meet the requirement for the commercial.
And that would, so the parking would be shared between the tenants and the commercial, right?
Well, we can assign the parking for the tenants so that they're clear. And so we can control that.
It's hard to control parking.
And have an on-site manager that really cares about that, because if if a tenant can't have a place to park and, because of commercial, that's a real problem. So it's not going to work.
So if you have a manager, right, that will try to control the parking situation. So there's a family that has 3 vehicles. The 3rd vehicle is going to park there. Street. And that's our number one problem, I think, in my opinion. That's a problem that we have here in town.
Understand? But I do like the parking requirement that the city requires. It meets everything that you're asking about. I can't help it if someone has 3 or 4 cars and only one family. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
Charlie, I'd like to give the rest of the council an opportunity to make their comment.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Well, I'm really happy that the planning commission was able to attend because we really did, they've been dealing with this a lot longer than I have. So I'm really happy to hear their input and see how we came to the decision. We're listening to that right now. My concern is you're saying that they're going to be market rate. We have apartments over here, I believe it's 7th Street, that just got remodeled. 2 bedroom, 1 bath, $2,200. What is a market rate going to look like?
Now we're catching me off guard because we were preparing that for this particular thing. So my financial people and the new people that want to do the project are working on that because they got to make the project work financially to have some kind of return on their investment. And at the next meeting, we can give you those figures.
I get that, but it's going to have to be $2,200, and that's a lot of money for our community. So that's one of my concerns. Second one is I still can't get away from the fact of having apartments next to the freeway. The houses are set back and the street is on the opposite side of the freeway. These would be awfully close. We've had somebody get run over on the freeway before trying to cross. And I can see that happening again. And I just, I was driving from LA, I see apartments butted up against the freeway. We're not LA, we're a small town. I really feel like we need more commercial. We've got a lot of apartments that are being built right now and, they're not ready yet, but we don't even know what impact that's going to have yet on our community and, our infrastructure. So that's another big concern of mine. Parking is an issue, traffic is an issue, and I know that you said that you've been working on that. That you could bring it back, but how can I say that? I'm trying to be nice here, but you don't live here. We live here. We know our community. We know what happens. We know the ins and outs. We know the problems that we have because we see it on a daily basis. We get emails daily, we get phone calls, I mean, you name it, we get blasted on social media. So we have to pay attention to what people are saying. We do understand that housing is important, but at what cost? At what cost?
I know that you have some major traffic problems here, and I'm talking about Doug Pike, your engineer, for your public works engineer. He says that you're about to get some pretty major funding for looking at, and I don't know if Paul can answer to that or not, but there's some funding that you need to have to solve major problems for the whole city. This project, if you read carefully the existing traffic report and what we will follow up with details about the traffic, this doesn't have that kind of impact that I think you're thinking of. When this is a professional traffic engineer that has worked all 101 and all of our projects.
And I get that, and maybe we do have major funding coming to help, but it's going to be a long time before that comes. Right now, we already have serious problems because we have traffic backed up on the freeway trying to come over. I normally come in through this side of town or the other end of town. And the other day I was just like, I'm going to go ahead and come up on Walnut. And it took me 25 minutes. And that's not even with the houses, with the apartments ready yet. And we still have more apartments on this side that are going to be done. People are going to be coming because that's the way to go. And so traffic really does bother me a lot. The Oak Avenue exit also, we've got a lot of issues right there. I'm surprised we haven't had serious accidents there yet because we're just constantly creeping out. When that's going to get fixed, we don't know. There's no timeline on it. We know that it needs to get fixed, but we don't know. It could be another year, 2, 3, 4 years from now. And I think that by allowing more apartments there instead of commercial, we're just compounding the problem.
That's what I left the city council meeting with, that exact comment that you just made about the traffic. That's why I went back to square one with our traffic engineer, and we are going to have a solution for that.
It'll be interesting to see it. So first question is does Mr. Kulik actually have any commercial developments right now, or is it all just residential?
I have no idea what he owns. He probably owns, I've never heard him say that. I've never worked on any other project but this for him.
Okay, that would be interesting to find out because it doesn't seem like he understands commercial versus residential very well. The other thing is a comment is it points to something that you just said along with something that we've been saying is that you really aren't paying attention to what the community is asking for. Because you said you meet the requirements laid down in the zoning code for our parking. When we're telling you that's not sufficient, you're saying, well, yeah, that's it. That tells me that you're not listening to what we're saying about the community. And that means you need to listen more and listen to what we're trying to tell you about our community. Because as has been mentioned, we live here, we know what happens. We know how to try to solve the problems that we're running into. And obviously we don't need to address the zoning code and make changes to that to reduce the number of parking spaces required, which is a long process. But in the meantime, you need to be listening to us saying, and we're saying the parking that you say you may meet the code, that's not sufficient. We know that most of the households are going to have 3 or 4 cars. We need to have the parking available for 3 or 4 cars, not for 2 and 4.
Okay, I don't know how else to design except for what the rules are. So the rules are in your book, and I'm hearing what you're saying. So give me some direction on where we can go. I mean, what we're doing here is, what can we? If I prepared enough units for 3 or 4 cars per unit, would that be satisfactory to consider? You tell me.
I would say that a unit would probably be sufficient parking.
Okay, that gives me something to work on. Thank you.
I hate to interrupt. I think we need to make sure, and staff is here to recommend to the boards that we feel is the correct, obviously, you guys do what needs to be done. I think it's really important that staff, if the staff weigh in on the questions that are going from the developer to the board. Because we are your intermediary. So, and it also seems to me we're getting a little off track. This is a workshop for the boards. This is not, I'm sorry, with all due respect, Mr. Elliott, this is not your show. This is their show. So I think we should do what we can to facilitate that.
I'm good with that. Tell me what you want.
So, question, so if we were to allow those appointments there, does that mean that anybody could come in at any time and try to do that wherever they want here in Greenfield, in our city?
Thank you. Southerly to all of that is as a mixed use overlay. And then and when it's at the remaining persons, because they're already moved out, I said the industrial parks that Westwood, where the dispensary is mixed use, and those are already developed also. So yeah, some it's usually and say I found the restaurant so that one so this way traffic, address that in SEQA. Question is, to city council. Consideration instead of revenues. So now, after all, I mean, in the seven, it's because we don't have if you look at it, it's right southerly of all the activity in a specific plain area. This entire plain is on the precipice of build up. You're not going to get here. A second hotel just south of this 4th Street parcel, and then 10 parcels from here to 3rd Street.
If we're here to give you instruction on how we move forward, is that what we're looking to give you an idea?
Yeah, it's like I don't know how you want to see if we. Commercially.
For myself, then, you know, I have to go with what the planning commission says or what staff is recommending. And I think you've done enough work already. And so has planning, you've done a lot of work already. And we're still not out of agreement, and I just don't see anything more commercial for myself, and I'm only speaking for myself.
I just want to make my sort of closing comments on this. I do agree, and I hear the planning commission on all the concerns. I agree with the density issue, definitely. I do think that the 20 units, just because of the simple fact that it doesn't meet that 1,300 square foot requirement, for me is reason enough to say, you know, if the developer is saying they can't get even any closer to that, but I think 8 would be probably what we would, I don't know, if that it would even be considered, but I'm hearing that definitely nothing higher than 8 for sure would be considered. So I think I'm hearing a consensus about that it's just too many units, too many housing units. I do want to just say a couple of things that I know I am kind of playing devil's advocate, but I do want to be the voice for those community members that wrote in with letters of support and public comment, because for, you know, the year and some change that I've been on council, this item has been the top item that I've received the most emails and comments and, you know, just communication and contact for people in favor of this type of build. Now, that doesn't mean, you know, throw all the rules out the window and just do the build, but it shows that the city, the residents, many residents wouldn't have an issue with the mixed use there, but I think that it does need to adhere to those rules of the square footage more than anything, to avoid those density and traffic issues. I appreciate that the developer, you know, is ensuring they're ADA compliant and the offer of the teacher housing, that they've made all of the revisions for concerns that were expressed in the past. But I do agree with what I think is the majority here, that it doesn't fully meet the needs of the city or abide by the city's guidelines or general plan that we really need to adhere to and respect. So, those are my comments.
The development agreement, by the way, and I'm not an expert in this. That doesn't change the zoning. You're still gonna have the zoning mixed overlay. Doesn't change that. So the next person, once this development agreement is very specific for you to consider adopting. It's not changing the zoning. That's what's good about it.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I misspoke, but not the zoning, but just how many units would be put in an area that was not meant for city residential.
And from talking to Paul, that's what the purpose of this was, for him to give me some direction on how many units. Could we consider the 1 per 300?
Yeah, no. That's not what I'm voting from. Anyway, that's what,
No, I think it opens to 1 to 3,000.
right.
If it's, so if you do 12,000.
But yeah, sorry.
1 to 3,000, so 12,000 units of residential would be 4 or 8, depending on how many floors the building was. Because it's, if I remember right, it's 1 unit for 2,000 square feet per floor. So I would be open to the 8 units, and I don't think we'd be open to any more than that. And even the 8 units at this point, we're hearing from the planning commission and from staff that this is truly a residential, or this is truly a commercial property. The mixed use is there, but we'd rather not see the mixed use.
I personally, I disagree with that. I wouldn't mind seeing the mixed use if it was the max of the 8 units. Because then I think if we have, you know, we still have the commercial space, which is what we want.
Right.
And, you know, potentially opening up new business. But then for those people that do want to live in a townhouse type of housing, that's an option and it's there. And, you know, admittedly, yeah, not everybody would be able to afford living in a location like that, but, or in moderate housing.
Right.
But some would.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
you know, if we add 8 units and we have the commercial, I do feel like that's a happy medium that isn't gonna cause the traffic of 20 units.
Right.
And so I personally would be okay with considering, you know,
Right,
within the rules.
Yeah.
Having some housing there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. commercial.
And the thing is too, is that if they build out more commercial, they can have more units.
Mhm.
So you went to, if you went to 24,000 square feet of commercial, you could have 16 units. Just something to think about is within your
Say again?
How will the parking board on that?
Then see, therein lies the problem is you have to work out the parking.
Yeah, that's why I think that for me personally, I would want to adhere to the 8 because then the parking situation isn't sort of uncontrollable, because even if it's commercial, you're gonna need parking either way. There's gonna be increased traffic there. Those factors aren't gonna change whether there's housing there or commercial. But if we limit the housing so that it doesn't create an out of control issue, then I think it's a fair thing to consider.
And commercial parking generally isn't 24/7. It isn't in the evenings for the most part. Well, it's in the evenings, but not in the late evenings. So
So that's. I'm not sure what guidance would really provide, but mine is that, like, for me.
That's still leaving the door open that somebody else can come in and do that wherever they want.
Into a process.
Down.
There has been a mixed use over there.
Attorney Thompson is gonna provide some
I
guidance.
clarified that point. It's not an automatic, so if you go here, it doesn't automatically, like another developer would be allowed.
Okay.
This is purely discretionary, you can decide. The overlay just gives a developer other costs.
Okay.
It's not totally automatic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think
Go ahead.
touching on that, I also think like I don't want to necessarily look at that even as a bad thing. If another developer did come and say, well, we could put more units here or whatever above the existing place, like it's being framed in a way that may be like, oh, no, like, we really don't want that. But why don't we? If it works, if there's parking, if everything works, then we should consider it. Any reasonable offer that comes to us, we should consider. So to me, that's not a reason that I shy away from that.
And that's the point of the discretionary approval, that you get to decide on project by project and site by site basis, what makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Does anybody have clear directive?
I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Yeah, what do you feel about
I would say I feel very better than I did beforehand. But what I heard this body suggest very strongly is that a unit, 1,000 square feet is a standard that you don't want to exceed. That's actually the standard that's codified in our code. So it doesn't need a development agreement and a general plan amendment and all of that other stuff. And we're not making decisions today, but we'll work accordingly with that guidance and try and work with the applicant to try and get a project that we can get to decision makers. But it sounds to me like a project that is mostly residential and the commercial is subordinate to the residential isn't gonna work for the city council.
And if I may just ask a question of the commissioners, since we probably won't have a joint meeting like this again on this issue. Just kind of a general poll, if a plan had come to your commission in the beginning with 8 units and, the laundromat and that stuff, or laundry within the units, these things that we've talked about, would you have been more inclined to approve that at that time if it wasn't like those 42 and then 24? Like then, is that a reasonable plan that you guys would have considered?
Yes, given the mixed use nature of the property, it would be fine. There was just too many asks of us to amend this and change that and consider this. And here's a loophole with the development agreement. It was too much.
And also, I wish we had more community comments. I know that but I always say this, this is where you guys need to show up. This is where your voice is heard here on record. Have city council and planning commission here to hear, their thoughts and so I wish we had more community input.
So isn't and ask your city attorney, aren't the emails public record that I should have copies of? Just like a letter or someone attending a meeting?
I'm not familiar with what the referring to, but they may have just been personal. or from our Tuesday meeting in which the burden conditions are.
Right, not this meeting. I didn't receive any for this meeting. I don't know if anyone else did, but for previous meetings when it was agendized, there were call-ins. I think there was at least one that was in person, and then there were letters that were distributed to all of us.
I didn't get those,
Well, they would be in the record. So.
Okay.
in the-
so I can get those. Thank you.
Well, I would like to reiterate that, some of our standard procedures about paying fees and we pay as we go for all of our project development. So that's important to acknowledge that if there's indebtedness, we don't build on indebtedness. We need to pay bills as they come due. And that's how all of our applicants are handled. I just wanted to get that in the record.
You sent us a bill in February for $4,500. We immediately asked for,
Mr. Elliott, I apologize, but I don't think we need to stay
I'm saying, well, we never got,
Yeah.
we never got
on
an
topics.
invoice.
Do we, I think there's a consensus here. Do you feel that?
I'm very happy. I appreciate your time very much on this issue. We've spent a lot of time on this. Really appreciate it.
Okay, so with that, thank you, everybody, for being here and meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.